Good evening. I would like to call to order the Keizer City Council in regular session. It is Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, and ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Herrera.
Here.
Councilor Reed.
Here.
Councilor Kohler.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here.
Council President Smith.
Here.
Councilor Starr.
Here.
And Councilor Duran.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, happy day after Independence Day. And it is my pleasure to begin tonight's proceedings with two very special orders of business. As everyone here can tell, and when the camera does eventually turn, they'll see that we have both human and canine members of the audience because our volunteer of the quarter has had a very special impact in our community for both. Joy St. Peter has been nominated and by the Volunteer Coordinating Committee to receive Volunteer of the Quarter, first quarter of 2022, and it is the pleasure of the City Council to concur that Joy St. Peter be named as the Volunteer of the Quarter for first quarter 2022. In the nomination, which is to cover how an individual or group has contributed to the community, it was very clear that Joy St. Peter, who is the founder and director of the Joy of Living Assistance Dogs, which was founded right here in Keizer in 2004, and has provided this nonprofit to train service dogs certified by Assistance Dogs International to assist people with PTSD and mobility issues to have a better quality of life, has truly exemplified what it means for pride, spirit, and volunteerism here in Keizer. Gary Whalen submitted the letter of recommendation, but I know that he was second, third, and fourth by so many people in our community. As he wrote, Joy St. Peter is the director of the nonprofit named Joys of Living. She began the service of passion in 2004 and since then has placed 200 to 300 nationally certified service dogs with people in Oregon, other states, and Canada. She leads dozens of volunteers in training and preparing these dogs for approximately 18 to 24 months to move onto a life of service for the recipients. Many of these dogs are provided to military veterans at no charge in gratitude for their service to our country. In addition to the dozens of citizen volunteers, Joy has built a program to train adults incarcerated in various Oregon penal institutions. This has resulted in people learning skills that can be applied toward employment in everyday life. I would also like to add that the Oregon State Hospital is also has people here tonight, and they are a partner in this work as well, a very important partner for training the dogs on the signals needed to serve their people. Joy St. Peter represents our community as highest standards and reflects our community values and motto of pride, spirit, and volunteerism. In our council packets, and I hope you all had a chance to see the wonderful Keizer Times article after the graduation we had right here at the Civic Center, where people and dogs graduated from the program, and we got to celebrate in a wonderful fashion the accomplishments and the ongoing work of the Joys of Living Assistance Dogs program. So I encourage folks to go on our website, look at our packet. It's on pages 5, 6, and 7 with some great pictures of dogs and their people, and just to really celebrate what was accomplished that night and will be accomplished going forward. So ladies and gentlemen, it is truly my pleasure to honor Joy St. Peter, Volunteer of the Quarter, first quarter 2022.
Look happy.
give you a chance to tell everybody about the program, if you want to come to the microphone, and where they can get involved.
Kathy, do you want a picture with all the canines?
After Joy talks, can we get a group picture? That'd be great. So, right there in front of that microphone.
I'm not really sure how to do all of this, so thank you very much. It is a great honor to be nominated and being here tonight, and I couldn't do it without all of these volunteers. They're the ones that make the organization, and a lot of them are here in Keizer, and starting this in 2004 and growing into what we are today. I'm very, very proud of the fact. But we do take volunteers to help raise and train these when they come in and out of the prison. It is a very big commitment, but it is a commitment and a labor of love. We get to take the dogs, with us wherever we go and prepare them. And then not only do we get the pride of being able to place these dogs and helping the inmates, but when they go to the recipients and we hear what they do for the recipients, it is truly a labor of love. And I've done it for 18 years without pay. So I would say that's a pretty good commitment for volunteerism. And, when I started this, I really didn't know what I was in for, but I wouldn't do anything else. And without the community support, that has been absolutely amazing, and we'd love to grow. And Mayor Kathy Clark, thank you so much for being a guest speaker at our graduation. The largest one we've ever had, 16 dogs graduated. So, and we survived COVID, so that's huge. And we just did what we needed to survive, and it's just grown. So if anybody would like to, know more about it, what it involves, how do we place dogs, what qualifies a dog as a service dog, or, how does a person get a service dog? Call Anna. She knows. We can give you the number, and you can also go to our website, and we're really proud. Does anybody else have any questions?
So would you, the folks who came here tonight, love to get a picture of you together. And if there's anyone else who would like to come up and share about their experience with the Joys of Living Assistance Dog Program, would love to give you that opportunity at this time. Thank you so much, Joy. You bring a lot of joy to people in our community.
Thank you.
So for folks who are watching, and now I know you can see on TV, so turn the camera back to the folks. There we go.
Just gather right here in front.
Yes, with all the puppies. Oh. So how old are the ones who are here tonight?
Are those really?
Are these are all pups, correct?
About 18 months to 8 weeks.
Okay, 8 weeks to 18 months.
Scoot all the way back.
Oh, actually, yeah, council. There. We can just stand kind of in between. There we go.
Okay, Gary, you got to scoot in just a little bit. Okay, well, what's the command for sit? Let's ready, set, ready, set, ready. I had a guy that talked to me once about this ready, fire, set, and all this stuff. Ready, set, fire. He says if you go ready, set enough times, you never get fired. So.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway,
Thank you all so much for coming tonight, and thank you for your volunteerism, all of you. One more for the Joys of Living Assistance Dogs. Perfect. Thank you. She is here. So thank you all so much. It is now my pleasure to also award a Volunteer of the Quarter for youth. This is not an award that is given as often as we would like, and we want to encourage community members. If you catch a youth who has been doing fantastic volunteer work for our community, please go to our website, submit that young person for nomination for Youth of the Quarter. Tonight it is my pleasure and great honor to recognize our outgoing, I won't say former quite yet, although I think her term is done, Youth City Councilor Miranda Coleman. In the nomination letter from Matt Lawyer, which he asked for me to read tonight because he could not be here, he said, "From a young age, Miranda showed a drive and determination for service and community. In 6th grade, she and her mom participated in their first project with the Claggett Creek Watershed Council. From that point on, she took the charge and created and coordinated projects of her own. Not many high school students want to do a service project for homecoming, let alone spend as many Saturday mornings in a park as she did. Not only did she organize projects, she recruited any student group that would be willing to help and made them feel welcomed and appreciated. Miranda is truly a servant leader. Miranda's maturity, confidence, and leadership make her a truly valuable part of the Keizer community. A bunch of credit for her personality and dedication goes to her upbringing. Her mom, Charlene, is equally passionate for people in her community, and I owe a debt of gratitude for her for allowing Miranda to step outside her comfort zone and be part of so many amazing things here in Keizer. Both Michaela and Miranda are very lucky to have an amazing mom. Miranda, thank you. It's been a real pleasure working alongside you and watching you grow into the amazing person you are today." So that is from Matt Lawyer. I would concur with everything he said. The list of projects that Miranda has undertaken has been very impressive. Just to give a small sampling, in 2018, Ben Miller Park Cleanup Day, Keizer Civic Center Cleanup Day, Keizer Rapids Park Cleanup Day, invasive species removal at Keizer Rapids, Country Glen Park Cleanup, tree planting at Keizer Rotary Arboretum. In 2019, Ben Miller Cleanup Day, Civic Center Cleanup Day, Soggy Day at the Park, invasive species removal at Keizer Rapids and Arboretum, tree planting at the Keizer Rotary Arboretum, Wallace House Cleanup Day. And then 2020 hit, and things really shut down a great deal, but that didn't stop Miranda as she looked for other opportunities to give and serve, including blood drives and activities, even though school was virtual, to stay in contact with her fellow students and encourage them as well. In 2021, back to not only in-person school and her numerous duties, and coming on then the Keizer City Council as the youth liaison or the youth counselor, also did the Keizer Civic Center Cleanup Day, Palmacia Cleanup Day, which was her project that she led, and the Northview Terrace Cleanup Day, also a project that she led. Ducks, you are getting one whale of a freshman. Look out, here comes Miranda Coleman, the Youth Volunteer of the Quarter for Keizer 2021. Congratulations. Thank you so much. Can I say something? You absolutely may.
Hello again. It's been a wild start of the summer. It's so good to be back. It kind of makes me, it's a little nostalgic or whatever, but just wanted to say such an honor to be awarded this award. And I'm very excited to take all the skills that I've learned here in Keizer and re-implement them and grow them even more in Eugene in the fall and for the next 4 years that I'm there. If it wasn't for the opportunities that Keizer gave me, I wouldn't have been as involved or successful as I was in that realm. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of you and thank you to Keizer. It will always be my home, and I'm so excited for what the future brings. So it's so great to see you guys all again. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, that's how to start an evening, celebrating. I don't have anybody here for committee reports. Is there anybody from a city committee that's here to give a report that didn't sign in? Okay. We had like no meetings last week, which was very nice. We needed time off. Public comment, this time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening. Woohoo! There are 2 written comments that have been submitted. One is from Matthew Stahlheim, a Keizer resident. Poison hemlock infestation at Wallace House Park on the island section, and this had already been forwarded to Mr. Lawyer and to park staff to take care of. Yes, and then a email from Don Kowalski, Keizer resident, regarding fireworks, and that is going to be brought up tonight under other business, correct? Yes. All right, so that will be also subject for further discussion. Anybody, I do have one person signed up, because speaking of celebrating, we're about to do a whole lot more. Keizer Fest. Corey, come on down, tell us the good stuff.
Hello. Happy 4th to everybody, even though it was yesterday. I hope you had a good time. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Councilors and staff. My name is Corey Filardo, and I'm the Executive Director at the Keizer Chamber of Commerce. I also live in Keizer, in the Palmacia neighborhood, I believe. I'm here today to share a little bit about the upcoming Keizer Fest events. We are first and foremost moving it to the Keizer Rapids Park, and hopefully here today we'll get those final approvals and all of the variances and all the things to make that go forward. But we are planning to have all of our regular scheduled events for Keizer Fest. We're just moving it to a new location and adding a few new things. So we are starting off on August 10th, we'll have our Keizer Fest golf tournament. And it's our normal scheduled golf tournament. We'll have businesses out on tee boxes sponsoring holes and sharing about their business and giving out swag and yummy treats. And you'll have a barbecue meal afterwards and a raffle party so you can win really cool donated items from our local businesses here in Keizer and the surrounding areas. And then we come to like the big tent scheduled events and the Keizer Festival grounds happening. So we are bringing a new carnival in this year called Magic Tent and Jump Houses. Okay. My partner in crime back there. And there's bounce houses, trampolines, a big slide that you get in a gunny sack and ride down. You can find me on that one for sure. That'll be part of the Keizer Fest grounds. We are fixing to have at least, my goal is 100 vendors this year. We'll see if we can get there, but we'll have plenty of room. So if you are an entrepreneur or have little cool things that you sell and want to be part of Keizer Fest, please call us at the Keizer Chamber office and we'll get you set up with that. From 11:30 to 1 on August 11th, we will have our sponsorship appreciation luncheon. So if you choose to sponsor Keizer Fest, that's a time that you come down and we'll feed you some really yummy food from Gambaretti's, and we will honor you as a sponsor for Keizer Fest. Starting off that night is our Keizer Fest kickoff party, and the food will be brought to you by Adam's Rib Smokehouse, and we'll have good music starting off at 4 o'clock and ending at 9 p.m. that day. Fast forward to Friday, we'll have our Willamette Valley greeters, where the entire Willamette Valley Chamber of Commerces are invited to the Keizer Fest tent, and we have a good time as chamber members and executive directors and we learn a little bit about what's going forward in our community. We'll have some great informational speakers about voting and voting education for that time frame, so come on down and be a part of that. And then Friday, we'll also see Valor Mentoring. They'll be hosting their end of the week kids camp. So all of their kids that go to their camp that week will be debuting the artwork, the photos, or the music that they've produced that week during the day on Friday. And the tent is open the whole time, so if you are a patron, you can come in and out and enjoy that. And then the showcase music will start at 4:30 that day, and music will go through 12 a.m. Friday night. Our main headlining band for Friday night is Collective Nation, which we saw last year, and they're coming back. And I just want to point out that we are doing an 80s theme this year, Where Were You in 82? And all of the band's music will be a throwback to the 80s. We'll have some good mix though, so don't worry if you are like, really, the 80s? We got you covered. And then we'll have Saturday starting off the day with the Mayor's Pet Parade, the Keizer Fest 5K Run. And this year we're moving the 5K Run to start and stop at the Keizer Chamber office. You can find registration details for all of those events on the Keizer Chamber website. It's $30 with a shirt to run in the Keizer Fest race, and it's an 80s theme race, so we want to see you don your best workout 80s gear for that. And then we have the pet parade starting at 10 a.m. Mayor Kathy Clark will be our
10. Okay. Just checking the time.
will be our what do you call it?
I'll lead off.
Yeah, she'll lead us off, and we'll have that fun parade. And any animal is
Millie.
allowed.
With Millie.
With Millie.
Yep.
Any animal is allowed. So if you have a cool chicken or a goat that will walk on a leash, you are welcome to come down and take part. We were happy to have you.
She looks at some of us that we might actually have.
I know some of you have those things, so come be a part of it.
Oh, we've had some fantastic pet entries from the chicken that was in a stroller that looked like a throne. I think she was dressed up like a queen or something like that. It was fabulous. So, yeah, people get very creative.
Any animal be a part of that as long as they can be walked on a leash.
And don't want to
great.
eat the one next to them.
That's right.
Any animal?
And then following the pet parade, immediately after is the Keizer Fest parade. And we're looking forward to have lots of entries this year. We've already got several, and it's going to be a fantastic parade. And that goes from Lock Haven down to Glenbrook with disbandment into the Skyline Ford parking lot. And then directly following that will be Crown the Hound down at the Keizer Fest Festival grounds. McNary APT, which is the audio production technical program, will be debuting their bands again, which if you came out to the concert in the park on June 25th or you did not, then you missed a good time because those kids were amazing. So hopefully you'll come out and see them at Keizer Fest. And then following that music will be our showcase music, and our headlining band for that night will be JFK. And that music will end at 12 a.m. And then Sunday is our family fun day. We'll be having some fun carnival time opportunities for kids in the tent, some magic act, or some cool things. Some of those events are to be determined, but it will be open until 3 p.m. on Sunday. And the carnival will be open, and vendors will be open for most of the days throughout Keizer Fest. So those are all of our events. Any questions?
All right. Clear the decks. We're going to have a huge community-wide bash. And everybody in the region, you are honorary Kaiserite for that weekend, so come on down.
That's right.
Questions? Council President Smith.
Actually, it's a request. Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Community Diversity Engagement Committee, when we were having a work session with them, they were looking at ways of reaching out to the community. If that's something that we could add, like a booth, I will allow the other two counselors that are on that.
Absolutely.
But we had discussed that. I don't know if anyone's come to
Typically,
you.
the city of Keizer gets a booth with
do.
our partnership. Sometimes Public Works uses it, so maybe there could be a joint partnership with the committees or whoever wants to be a part of that. We're happy to
Perfect.
have you be there.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you for remembering that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And hang around. There might be some questions when we get to that on the agenda. I've got a
Absolutely.
couple that I'll be asking staff, but if I need some clarification, I want to be able to go to the source rather than go from my memory, which it is hit and miss, kind of like my internet service today.
Oh, jeez. Happy to help. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, anyone else for public comment tonight? I don't have anybody else signed up. All right, then let's go to administrative action, which is about item 8A, a resolution authorizing temporary use and sign subject to conditions for Keizer Fest 2022. City Manager, take it away.
Madam Mayor and Council, City Attorney Johnson has this item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, Madam Mayor and Council. Each year, the Keizer Chamber has Keizer Fest, or Iris Festival as it used to be called. It's a little different this year with this location at Keizer Rapids Park. Typically, they submit multiple permits for both the parade and the event, and council approves that in two separate items. The first one is the event itself and the signage, et cetera, you can see in this staff report, and then the following staff report as a separate item is the suspension of the street vendor ordinance. So the resolution that's attached to this staff report allows the event. The only issue is that they had asked, again, this is all kind of new with this new location being at the park. Chamber had asked for waiver of certain rules with regard to generators, cooking. Those things are typically not allowed, but they can be waived. The only one that is a little problematic is the chamber does plan to have what they call a smoker's corner up by the entertainment tent. Smoking is prohibited in all parks, and unlike the other provisions, it cannot be waived. So if council wants to allow that smoker's corner, I have a separate motion in addition to the motion with regard to the resolution to direct us to come back with an amendment to that for the next meeting if you want to take that step. So the recommendation is to review the matter, and if there's no questions and you wish to grant the request, including the waiver of fees, the resolution is attached to do that, and then by separate motion if you desire to deal with the smoking issue. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And the waiver of fees is the city's sponsorship, as I understand it. I'm getting a head nod from Corey and from Bob.
The waiver of fees in this case is a little different because the park is being used, and so the question was the waiver of the use of the park, which is different than in past years. So that's an additional fees that we haven't had before. So that's the difference between this year and previous years.
Okay, so I do have one other question before I open it up to the rest of the council. You talked about smoking. Vaping is also in that same ordinance, and we would, if we do one, I would recommend that we do both to make sure that people have a space for that activity. The other question I have, I mean, you mentioned it briefly on generators, but also prohibited are inflatable bouncers, trampolines, and mechanical rides. As I understood it from the parks regulations, those are kind of like the smoking, vaping thing, no-go, or are they waivable? And I didn't see them listed in the things we're waiving.
Those, and thank you, Madam Mayor, you're correct. Those can be waived with a permit, so those don't require a separate ordinance like the smoking does.
Okay.
Although they're not directly mentioned, everything that they've requested for is granted. So although there wasn't a direct reference in the resolution to that, all the waivers that they requested were granted, so.
Because I was looking at come on, wrong page. Me and technology are not having a good day. There was a page that had the waivers and the bouncy inflatable ride thingy I didn't see it in there.
No, that's correct. But and that's on page 35,
Thank you.
I believe, number 11, and that's the exhibit to the resolution.
Right, that's
So
what I was
it
looking at.
begins by saying the applicant has requested a waiver or partial waiver of several park regulations, except as noted below. These requests are granted with the following conditions. So
Gotcha.
all the
Okay.
requests are granted. I only listed ones that were particular that I needed to list, so.
Okay, I didn't catch that nuance. So by omission, as they were requested, they are included.
Right.
Gotcha.
So all requests are, if you grant this resolution, are waived with the exception of the smoking, which would have to be dealt with separately.
Smoking / vaping. Okay, thank you. That answered my questions. Questions from council? Looking, Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a question about, I know that for the Shakespeare in the Park performances, we had to have people spend the night with the equipment to make sure nothing got messed with or anything. Do you have provisions for that? Or I would like you to.
We hire overnight security, and it's creative security that will be on grounds 24 hours. While the bar is open, while the event's closed, that way things are safe and somebody's always monitoring the situation. And then we have requested to have a trailer parked on site where Bob would be staying, so he would also be there as well.
Perfect,
Yes.
perfect.
If I may, regarding the smoking, we had asked for that because we want to have an area available so that people aren't just walking around everywhere smoking. And it was our best decision that if we offered something like that, then we could kind of keep it under control. We have plans to have fire extinguishers and security monitoring that area at all times. So just so if you are wondering what our plan is about that.
No, thank you, and thank you for being, thinking ahead to solving problems before they happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you. Councilor Herrera?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for thinking about the smokers.
Yeah. Absolutely, and vaping.
And I was gonna ask, and maybe this should go to chief also, but is there any difference in presence, Keizer police presence, as opposed to where it used to be, and now to a larger area?
We are working as scheduled with the police department.
Is it gonna require the same, pretty much?
Yeah, we only have so many resources, so
I'm sorry?
we throw everything at it as it is, so no matter how big it is, you're gonna get the same resources.
May I answer that? So we have security there, we have a lot of security there, so, because they don't have the resources, so we pay for security. And they're there the whole time, so
And I imagine traffic control is gonna be.
I got that handled. We got CERT helping out.
Everything, man.
Well, I'm hoping. Let's knock on wood, this is a great success. So we have lots of room this year, as you guys have been, if you've been out there to see, we've got it seeded. We're gonna get the weeds knocked down and mow it a couple more times. It'll probably die before August, but at least we won't have a dust bowl out there. The seed looked like it took off pretty good, so it should be good. It's lots of room. We're gonna have an entrance and an exit. I've met with Anne Marie, so we know all the fire issues. They're gonna have a station truck out there at the big toy parking lot. And they're probably gonna have a tent out there with some volunteers, so we got that covered too, so.
And for people who are watching, Emery is the Deputy Fire Marshal for the Keizer Fire District, Emery Storms, and she is very experienced in this area.
Yeah, met with her first.
Very smart.
Yes, indeed.
And on the smoking thing, I want to make sure, I think she clarified it. This is just a smoking section inside the tent area, the gated part. This isn't like just out in the field somewhere. So this is all designated, probably back by the bathrooms, in that section. So it's definitely regulated and designated. But we had this discussion and we just wanted to be fair for everyone. I didn't realize it was not allowed in parks. So I'll let you guys make that decision.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions for Corey and Bob while we have them? Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions before we put a motion on the table? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, authorizing temporary use and signs subject to conditions for Keizer Fest 2022.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, authorizing temporary use and signs subject to conditions for Keizer Fest 2022. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. We need then a motion to direct staff to come back with, Shannon, how do we need to phrase it to come back with direction
I think we have
on?
the motion.
It's
on
It's,
the
you got
staff report.
Council President Smith, you got it. Up to you.
I move the Keizer City
Oh.
Council direct staff to prepare a limited amendment to the parks regulation to allow smoking in certain parks under a special permit.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Let me go back to that page, which was so nicely prepared for us. If I would just pay attention. It's at the top. There it is. It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to prepare a limited amendment to the parks regulation to allow smoking in certain parks under a quote-unquote special permit. Friendly amendment to add vaping.
Approved.
Approved.
So it's been approved to add vaping to this amendment. Any further discussion? Councilor Starr.
I think the biggest question I have when staff is looking into it is what is the precedent we're setting for future events and permits that we would have at the park? That's my biggest concern.
So we do have provisions similar to the one that's coming up next, the street vendors one. There's no legal precedent being set. I mean, you could have people in the next year or two say, well, what about my festival? It's really kind of a purview of the council, though, to see if something, is similar to that. So if the concern is that you're going to allow smoking all the time, I would say no. It would be in connection with an actual event. And it would kind of, in my opinion, kind of depend on the size and type of the event, too. This event goes into the evening. The type, and unfortunately, for better or worse, oftentimes music and the drinking, they're gonna have smokers there, and I understand the point, is the concern is if you don't have an area that people, then it's gonna be everywhere surreptitiously, and we really don't have those enforcement abilities, so. As far as the precedent issue, I don't think there's any legal precedent being set. Someone could argue later, perhaps, that, well, you allowed it for that one, you have to allow it for me, but that'd be up to the council to determine if it's an appropriate time in the next event.
Thank you.
Okay. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Mayor. I can see where it could be like a case-by-case situation, because when there's music, like you said, and, you want to allow for those folks to have, if it was some other regular, something during the day, I wouldn't say it would be in favor as far as, So I would say case-by-case is the way to go on that. That's my guess as far as the precedent.
Okay, thank you. And, Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think part of this is just knowing people that if they are drinking, they want to smoke. My concern is if we do not allow a space that's always historically been there, that they're going to go in and out, and they're going to wander out to the street, and it could affect the neighbors, because if you want a cigarette, people are going to go and find a place for a cigarette. So they may, if someone said, well, you can't do that in the park, then we're shoving them out onto the streets and into the neighborhood, and I don't think West Keizer neighborhood would appreciate that very much, or the litter because then there's nowhere to throw your cigarette butt. So I think whether or not you agree with smoking or not, I think it's the fact that it's contained that way a little bit better is the bigger picture that I'm looking at.
Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My thinking on this is this hasn't come up as an issue for our concert series, to my knowledge, and so if they don't need that exception of the concert series, I don't really, other than the fact that they've had it in years past at Keizer Fest, I don't really see a need for it, but that's my thinking.
And thank you. Councilor Kohler, did you have something?
I did, thank you, Madam Mayor. Although we've had the no smoking ordinances in our park for quite some time, there really has been no enforcement to speak of. And there are days that you could go down there and see people smoking in the park. So is it better to just leave it and then have people smoking all over the place, or put a designated spot to get together for that? Making it safer and probably more contained. So there's arguments on both sides.
So one thing in my opinion, and that why I will vote in favor of this, is that having a designated area, because we are going to have a concentration of people. When you have day-to-day park patrons, yes, there are some people that do go ahead and smoke, even though it's against regulations, but we are going to be having a large event with a large number of people, and bringing that kind of concentration into the park in the summer, it seems like a safe precaution to me to provide a space where if there's stray cigarette butts and so forth, that is less likely to ignite a fire. If people are going to different places within the park, we've already had fire start down in the parks and other areas of town, and we don't want to be encouraging people to go away from the area that's not being monitored. And it's better for the patrons as well, that they can stay local, they can stay close to family, friends, and so forth, not have to leave the area and then try to come back. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was wondering if it would be wise to get an opinion from our Public Works Department.
Mr. Lawyer, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I actually encourage the chamber to consider a smoking area around the beer tent, because having been to Keizer Fest many times in the past, and as a smoker, you have a beer tent, you have a band, you're gonna smoke. It's just the reality. So let's designate an area, keep it controlled, if you will. And so that's what they prepared. And Shannon, as he mentioned, through the rules, review of the rules, the parks regulations, realized that that's not a waivable rule. So I think the approach to amend the parks rules, that specific section, to allow for it to be waived in certain circumstances is really a good idea. Having attended concerts at the amphitheater through the summer concert series, people smoke during those concerts. Don't be fooled for a second, they don't, because they do. Nobody's enforcing it. I've not yet seen anybody challenge anybody, I'll say. The other thing is the Keizer Fest event is a much larger crowd that we see at concert series. Even with JFK playing at the concert series, we have 1,000, 1,200 people. There's gonna be a lot more than that. Hopefully there'll be a lot more than that for the Keizer Fest. So I'm in favor of amending the rules to allow it in certain circumstances under council approval.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Any further discussion? Councilor Herrera?
I agree 100% with, thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree 100% with Bill. And, for the folks that don't like smoking, there's folks that don't like beer, drinking, and they're both legal, and I'd rather have it contained, for lack of a better word, and have folks have a good time, and that's just what it is right now. So, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. I know where I was in '82. We're gonna have a good time. And Keizer was just about to become a baby city. All right. Item 8B is a resolution authorizing a temporary suspension of the ordinance prohibiting street vendors. Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. As I had mentioned previously, we do this every year in connection with Keizer Fest also to allow street vending during the parade. It is a very limited allowance, as you can see, only for, and now I've lost my place, but basically just the morning of the parade until noon, I think. In any event, you cannot block either pedestrian, vehicular, or parade traffic. And so the resolution before you and the recommendation is to adopt the attached resolution which authorizes that temporary suspension. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, authorizing a temporary suspension of the ordinance prohibiting street vendors.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council adopt Resolution R 2022, authorizing a temporary suspension of the ordinance prohibiting street vendors. Further discussion, Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess question to Chief Teague, have we really ever had any problems with any of the street vendors? Has it created a situation?
It's never created a situation. We've had, say, minor problems. We've been able to correct them at the scene, and nothing that became an issue.
Thank you very much.
All right, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. This takes us then to item 8C, which is a library issue. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. The last direction that we received when we discussed the Keizer Community Library possibility of becoming a Keizer Public Library, the council directed staff to come back with a proposal of $1.50 and $2 per month and what the service level might look like for that. Yeah.
Tracy has the magic fingers.
Yes. That way you all can see what we see on this screen in front of us.
So we worked with the community library and to come up with these service level changes. And in that process, in working with our partners, it did come up another funding level of 267 that was in addition to the level that you asked us to bring back. So we went ahead and applied the same criteria to it, and our partners with the library, BJ Toohey and John Goodyear, helped us create that, really created that service matrix for us. So I'll kind of try to run through it. It is in the packet and available for the folks at home to look at if they want to pour through it. We have 3 service levels, and you'll be able to see the different things they can do with that money based on the fee that would be approved if voters agreed to it on a future ballot initiative. So, and that would be a fee on the Keizer Public Services bill. So under all 3 conditions, scenarios, they would have a public library director with the ability to be able to add other staff with higher levels than above $1.50. And for hours of operation, they anticipated being able to operate 40 hours at the $1.50 level. I believe the current level is 24 hours a week. So it'd be an increase of 16 hours a week that the library would be open. And under the best possible scenario, 48 hours per week. And then services for the 3 different levels, they'd see an increase in services under each of the 3 scenarios. But under the $2 scenario, they would receive readers advisory services for youth, interlibrary loans from across the nation. And then under that 250, a lot of the 250 and 267 rate are tied to the ability to have a relationship with Chemeketa Community Library regional library system. And then materials collection, obviously going to have a greater collection with the more resources you have to put towards it. And then a lot of different resources and services tied to those collections with higher level. And as far as the technology, I anticipate that they would continue to have the computers that they have right now still available. These would be additional workstations and additional network remote hotspots that people could take to loan out from the library. So much more technology services attached with that relationship with CCRLS. And then the programming, there's an increase of services even with the $1.50 and $2 level and the $2.50 and $2.67 level. I'm not spending a lot of time with this on all these different levels, and I'll kind of get to that here in a minute. I think this is the last one, but space-related services, they're still constrained under all three of these scenarios. But under the $1.50, they would more likely be limited to where they are now. At something more than that, they could move into something larger in the future. And there's a lot of other things you can do with space, but that they just don't have that opportunity now. So the financial items, you saw two of these, this one at $1.50 and then the next one at $2 last time. And so the last one is just a math exercise. It looks very similar. We do have a detail breakdown of this. This is a rolled up financial plan for the 267 level, but it's, so the reason I'm not spending a lot of time on the matrices of what the service level looks like is because there's still a lot of questions that are unresolved, and what's needed is time and conversation with other organizations. The questions unresolved, there's how much. Obviously, that was one of the purposes of coming back to you today, whether you wanted to fund it at a $1.50 level or $2 level. And then since that time, this other level has been discussed and put in front of us. Space, if we wanted to just allow them to keep continuing the service they have right now, the space works. They do remarkably well with the space they have. But any type of relationship with CCRLS would probably challenge that space. And then the election timing, something to consider is voter mood and whether there's time to pull together a campaign, successful campaign for a ballot question at this time also. The space is something that if we were to go past that $1.50 or to enter a relationship with CCRLS, then the space is something that would need to be answered at some future point, if not now, probably within the next 5 years. And then the library cooperative itself with the relationship with CCRLS, we need some time to pursue that directly with them. We've mostly been working with the community, the volunteer community library folks, and if we were gonna work with the cooperative, then we need to have some sit-downs directly with them. And so that's where I'll leave the discussion with you is from the staff level, we feel like there's more discussion that needs to be had. And there is, very simply, you can put more resources at it at $1.50 or $2 level, and you'd have something that's more sustainable than we have right now, which is nearly entirely volunteer driven. But we also want to be able to meet the expectations of the residents who live here. If something goes on the ballot, they're going to expect a certain level of services that we may or may not be able to provide.
Okay. Thank you very much, and really appreciate the time and thought and the work that has gone into the scenarios that we've been presented this evening. And so staff recommendation is for council to direct to give more time for staff discussions to flesh out the service levels and levels and costs associated with all of the different services involved. I'll open it up for questions. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Manager, could you talk about the election timing? I mean, explain what, I kind of know, but I want the folks to understand that are listening. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Herrera and council members, there's just from reading or watching what little news I do watch, which is usually after the end of the day in my office, there's very low approval ratings for most of our government services, especially at the federal level. And I don't want to speak politically or anything, but I think just with inflationary prices and low approval levels, it's, I don't know if it's the timing is the best to ask voters for to make a decision about that.
Thank you. I want you to explain that because when people see election timing, they think, oh, we don't have enough time to, something like that. When it's more the mood or, and I agree with that, by the way, right now. People are not in a good mood right now, and with the prices going up, it's kind of tough, but thank you very much.
And I might add, especially with inflation, we've got to take a look at these numbers again, seeing what the purchasing power is going to be as we watch the financial pressures mount on all of our services. We're having trouble across the board with service delivery at all levels of government because of inflation. So I think this will, sorry for the pun, buy us some time to get a better handle on what that's going to mean for our ability to provide sustainable services, in my opinion. Further questions? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council not put the matter on the November 2022 ballot and direct staff to review the library matter further and report back when they have additional information.
Second.
Anita. It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council not put the matter on the November 2022 ballot and direct staff to review the library matter further and report back when they have additional information. Further discussion. I'm going to go to Councilor Kohler, then Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you know, I've spent a little bit of time on the library. I'm certainly not against the library, but we don't have something that we can sell to the public right now on a ballot. And I think rather than, I think one of the things that staff needs to look at is funding the library at a $60,000 a year basis from ARPA funds, temporarily giving them a bonus of $15,000 for a grant writer, and then have somebody review what's going on with that so that the grants will help sustain what's going on in the library and that we can have a community library. Under the current environment, I don't know any way that we are going to be able to be a member of the CCRLS. And if we're not going to be able to be a member of the CCRLS, I don't see the reason to do anything other than a community library at this juncture. Now, I look at it in the future and then maybe vote on it in 2 years. Yeah, but not now.
So the financial question, can we take that up under other business to have that conversation because that's outside this motion?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further discussion on the motion on the floor? All in favor signify by saying, oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Herrera, I said I was going to come to you and.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just curious how the library folks, what their thoughts on this. I can understand why we would do this, but I would like to know how they feel about, is it too late to do that?
Yeah, we're in deliberation for a motion, so at this point, we need to complete this part of the process. I know that there's been a great deal of work and desire to move forward into a public library and getting it done right so that the voters of Keizer know exactly what they're voting on, I think are the voters of Keizer the best service. That's my humble opinion. But I know that there's a great deal of support for keeping this process moving forward. But I will not speak for BJ Toy and John Goodyear, but I do want to commend their tremendous work and leadership in our community library and the vision for what can be for the people of Keizer. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no.
Nope.
Motion passes with one no, that's Councilor Reed. All right. Let's go to item 8D, which is the purchase of sculpture Cold Wet Eagle. City Manager, this goes to?
This goes to our city attorney. Mr.
All right.
Johnson, he's prepared the agreement.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Brown, Madam Mayor and Council. This matter came up in the budget discussion, and you might remember Lori Christopher was here explaining that. This is the sculpture that's currently located on Chemawa River Road by Schoolhouse Square. The matter had been budgeted for, but when we purchased art, we want to make clear that the council approves that, so that's the matter before you today. So the prepared motion is a minute motion. They're listed to approve it for $15,000, which was the agreed upon price some time ago. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I have one question, and it is my understanding that the Block Corporation that owns Schoolhouse Square has agreed to donate $5,000 toward the purchase. So this is an up to?
Well, and Mr. Wood might need to help me here. That came in at the last minute. As you might remember, that Lori Christopher explained that she had, by the way, initially she was trying to get half, but apparently Mr. Block wouldn't quite go with half. But we don't have anything official on that. We just have what Lori said, and we haven't had any contact back yet from Mr. Block. The budget is for $15,000.
Okay.
So and the reason I didn't mention it here is my understanding is we're going to buy it for $15,000. We intend to follow up on that proposed offer from Mr. Block and pursue that, but the two are not tied together, if you see what I'm getting at.
So
And if the council wants to do it that way, you certainly can, but we went into the budget, right to the final budget, budgeting the entire amount because we had not heard.
okay. So if a grant or a donation from an outside source comes in, then the rest of the balance would go back into ARPA or just go into unobligated? Is that where that would end up?
In general, I like to keep my revenues separate from my expenses and not net the two together. That does present some problems for us accounting type of folks. So to the extent that we do approve this motion tonight, you will see a $15,000 expenditure. In the revenue section, we will work with the Block folks to get a $5,000 donation. Part of it also is kind of a legal issue. As a city, we would like to own the whole statue ourselves. So if we can get a donation rather than entering into a ownership agreement, I think that'll put us in a much better spot.
And if I could, Madam Mayor, I believe it actually works better for Mr. Block because then there's no question about the deductibility. I suppose it'd be deductible as a business expense, as Mr. Wood pointed out, but we had not heard back from him yet.
Okay, and it would go into art in general or just back into?
I would anticipate this would probably go back to our ARPA funds.
Into the ARPA funds.
As a miscellaneous type of income, yes.
Okay, that's what I was asking. Thank you. Councilor Reed.
I heard, or at least it prompted my thinking, so insurance would be another issue on this if we co-owned it with somebody else? So in many ways, it would be better just to all out do it ourselves.
All right. Councilor Duran.
So I was supporting of this in the budget process, but I was also expecting that we were going to get some help with this from donation. So I would feel confident or feel comfortable doing this with saying we're only going to spend $10,000 on this ourselves, with $5,000 coming in. But agreeing to pay for the whole thing right now, I'm a little bit hesitant without help. So that's just my feelings.
Okay, thank you. Further questions? Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Is there a maintenance cost to this also that's been budgeted?
There'll have to be, just like TD Keizer, correct? Councilor Reed?
Well, just as liaison to that, the Arts Commission, that is, the ongoing maintenance is part of the ask of, we kind of got into 3,000, 6,000, how much, should the Art Commission be allocated? And that is part of what they are doing with that, the money that they've been budgeted is the maintenance. So.
Okay, perfect. Okay, any further questions? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council approve the purchase of the sculpture entitled Cold Wet Eagle for $15,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council approve the purchase of the sculpture Cold Wet Eagle for $15,000. Further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed signify by saying no.
No.
Motion passes with 1 no from Councilor Duran. Thank you very much. And who put the scarf on it? Has anybody else seen that? It's got a nice.
It was cold.
It was cold. It was a Cold Wet Eagle, and somebody put a nice woolly scarf on it. It's so sweet. So anyway, it's now been. Keizer shows up. There you go. I noticed that when I got back this weekend. Let's go to item E, which is the Oregon Psilocybin Service Act. I take it this goes to Mr. Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Flip the pages here real quick. I hadn't realized the Psilocybin Act, or those are the psychedelic mushrooms, if you will, had passed, but I was not aware of until just a few weeks ago that the states preempted our ability to do any serious restriction on it. And
What?
so to prevent one from, or these types of industries locating, which is up to the council, it's going to be less retail, if you will, than marijuana sales, and I could get into that in a moment. But if you wanted to, you have to put it before the voters. You don't get to just decide you do or you don't. These provisions in a service center is where someone would go and under the supervision of a what they call a facilitator, ingest the psilocybin and be monitored. You wouldn't leave is the idea. And there is some evidence that it does help for certain disorders. So a lot of the cities through the league, and there's a model that the League of Oregon Cities has produced, are addressing this issue now. And the options I chose for you there, I think on the third page, was to either take no action, which would mean that beginning January 2023, psilocybin service centers and other types of uses like that would be allowed without any regulations. The second alternative is to direct our office to prepare documentation to refer the voters a ban. A third option, which I found out late last week, is kind of a hybrid, if you will, and that is, but you still have to take it to the voters, is a 2-year ban only to allow additional time to do regulations with the idea of allowing it. Or the fourth option is just go directly to these time, place, and manner regulations, which are allowed, in terms of what the time is and certain limited restrictions that we're allowed to regulate without going to the voters. The concern, and I talked to Mr. Witham about this, the concern about that fourth option is we won't know until the end of the year what OHA, Oregon Health Authority's rules are. So it'll be kind of hard to figure out what our rules would be. So although I listed it as an option, I think if you wanted to eventually allow it, then the third option, a 2-year ban, would be. If on the other hand you feel that it's not an appropriate place in the city for these types of uses, then the option would be B, which is option B, to direct us to come back with a ballot measure to ban it. So that is the shorthand way. I gave some links there in the staff report to some materials, but with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I've got one, and then I'll open it up if I may. So the motions are to ban or to permit with time, manner, and place the manufacture of psilocybin products. But what you were talking about was a person coming to a service center to receive.
Right, it would
And
ban
use.
all. So if the motion at the beginning of the staff report talks about psilocybin service centers, the manufacturer products, any related activities. So in the alternatives, it may have been shorthand.
Oh, there it is in the second line. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Service centers,
Okay.
which, so service centers and the manufacturer and anything else related to it.
Right.
Got it, thank you. I saw, it was Councilor Reed? Did you have a hand up?
Yes.
Okay.
I had a couple questions. First of all, are we talking the November ballot for this?
Yes.
Okay. And my other question was, does this affect in any way the cutting in of our funds for the marijuana tax? I know that those were sort of taken from us to pay for this issue, but that wouldn't affect this at all either? Okay.
No, and if I may, Madam Mayor, while I'm on the topic, I'll mention that the law also prevents us from taxing or charging any fees whatsoever for these uses.
That's just special. Yeah, Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Did you happen to pull the voter results of Keizer for Measure 109?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't think
Okay,
to do that.
I do see the Marion County, it actually would have failed for Marion County. I just didn't have the specifics of Keizer, but knowing Keizer, we know the conservative voting patterns. So just as a point, it did actually fail in Marion County.
Councilor Starr.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just need to clarify on option number 2, where we take the 2-year pause and ban it for 2 years. Does that allow us then after that 2 years to go to the voters and ask them?
Remember that it'd be 2 times to the voters, though. You have to take even the 2-year ban to the voters. So the concept, the only reason to do the 2-year ban is if you feel like this use may be appropriate with the proper regulations, but you want plenty of time to do the regulations. If, on the other hand, you feel that, and remembering again that the breadth of what we can regulate under state law is somewhat limited. So if you feel that with even with limited regulations, that it's not an appropriate use, then you would be to what's in my list B, in other words, the permanent ban would be to refer that to the voters.
So,
if that's how you feel.
okay, so just to clarify though, we would go on option, I think it's C, we would go to the ban, or go to the voters for the 2-year ban, do whatever we need to do in that 2 years, and then once that 2 years is done, can we go to the voters if we, in that 2 years, decide we absolutely do not want this?
And
can we
have a
go
second
back to the voters and say, we did all this work over 2 years, and now we're asking you to ban it completely?
Because you feel like the regulations wouldn't work?
I'm asking a
I guess you
hypothetical
could.
question.
Yeah, I think you could. You'd be taken to the voters twice. You'd have to, you'd have to pay for that election, I think. Is that right? No, in 2 years? You
No,
wouldn't?
it would be a
Oh,
general.
that's correct.
General
Sorry.
election year.
Thank you,
It's a
Tracy.
regular
Got my
general.
years mixed up. That's correct. Yeah, it'd be 2024, right. November 2024.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, further question. Councilor Herrera.
I think I got part of it, but, thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, when you ban or, you know, I don't know how psilocybin, I knew a little bit about the 70s, but now I don't know nothing about it. Now, when you ban manufacturing or selling of products, folks can still, from Keizer citizens, can still go buy it somewhere else, right? Or is that?
Well, correct, but they're not supposed to transport it. It's not like marijuana. So they would.
So that's my question right there.
They would have to go to another service center outside of Keizer if it was banned here, but they couldn't purchase it and leave with it.
Okay, but so it would be illegal to go purchase it somewhere else and then?
The concept is totally different than marijuana, remember. This is purely for medical treatment purposes.
Yeah.
And so you would go to wherever it's located, you would go and under the supervision of a facilitator, is the term the state uses, ingest the psilocybin and stay there for a significant period of time. You wouldn't leave again. So unlike marijuana.
Thanks for explaining that. I didn't know that. Thank you.
So my question is, once a person is treated with psilocybin and they leave the center, are they under the influence? Are they able to drive and so forth? I don't understand this at all. Marijuana,
Right.
I grew up in California.
Yeah.
Familiar. This,
Woodburn.
totally
So-
new territory for me, so help me out here.
if-
What happens after the person leaves, and this is going to is this going to cause a public safety issue for that individual and the community?
Right. So if I may, Madam Mayor, I should have noted it in my introduction. I did sit through a webinar with OHA people and public officials. It wasn't really geared to attorneys necessarily. And it appears that there's going to be regulations on there. Unfortunately, it's staffed by 6 people. They have indicated they're doing their best, but they do not anticipate having these regulations ready until the end of the year. That is an issue that was addressed at the webinar, and it's something they said that they were going to address. So the concept would be the facilitator would say, okay, you stay here until you're not under the effect of the drug anymore, to avoid the very problem you referenced. Now, how will that actually work? I don't know. But it isn't like no one thought of that problem. The real question is there a likely solution to remedy that possible problem? I can't tell you that.
And apparently the Oregon Psilocybin Advisory Board can't yet either. Okay. Chief, do you have? I know this is, I can just see the wheels turning. It's a trap. From a public safety point of view, I'm asking your expertise.
Yeah, well, I don't have any expertise with psilocybin. I mean, this is putatively psilocybin, this use of it is therapeutic, not recreational. So the person would be treated and then allowed to leave either sober, or if that's the right term, or transported by somebody else as if you just had a surgery or put under or something. I'm sure it'll be highly regulated.
Okay. Thank you. That's actually very helpful. Mr. Brown?
Madam Mayor and council members, I just looked at the election results, and it lost in all 5 precincts in Keizer in 2020.
Okay,
Measure 109. Yep.
Yay, Keizer. Okay, so the question before us, and we're on a timeline to, if we're going to get, similar to the conversation we just had regarding timelines in the library, we're on a timeline to, if we're going to put something on the November ballot. So my question is, if we don't go on the November ballot, is that pretty much it? Then we're going with option 1 of we're turning it over to the state and going along with what they say? Or is there a time later? I think this is what Councilor Starr was getting at. At what point do we need to go to the ballot?
Well, I think if you're concerned about having it in Keizer, you need to go to this ballot. I mean, the only reason I would think that you'd want to pick the option where you have a 2-year ban is to simply say, we think this is going to be okay, but we want to see what the state rules are going to be and then adopt our own rules.
Right.
I do believe, as I was talking with Councilor Starr about that you would have the option later of saying, now we don't think it's going to work, but, I mean, if you have, if you have concerns about it now, the safer option would be to just simply ban it. I do believe you could do it that way, but the idea behind doing the 2-year ban is not to end up with having 2 votes. It's basically to give time to do the regulations.
And there's something that, just for folks listening, in the past, what we have done is, with the marijuana, we regulate time, manner, and place, just as if we're talking precedent. Further questions? Okay. I'm not going to make Council President Smith make the decision on which one to put on the table, but if you have one that you feel strongly about, I'm going to give you
Okay.
the option to
I think
lead off.
Keizer already spoke. So I move the Keizer City Council direct city attorney to prepare appropriate documentation to put the question of whether or not to ban psilocybin service centers, the manufacturer of psilocybin products, and related activities to the voters of the city of Keizer.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct city attorney to prepare appropriate documentation to put the question of whether to ban psilocybin service centers, the manufacturer of psilocybin products, and related activities to the voters of the city of Keizer. Discussion. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. All right then. Let's go from one interesting topic to the next. Let's go to opioids, shall we? Opioids, multi-district litigation. Litigation, that sounds like Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I did not choose to put these both on the same agenda.
Why not?
Back to back, but that's just the way it worked out. So you may remember last year that the opioid multi-district settlement came before council and you authorized us to move forward with that settlement. The next step is choosing whether to take the share of the funds directly or to allow part or all of it to go to the county. When I initially looked at this several months ago, I felt because of the restrictions involved that maybe it would be better just to let it go to the county. But after kind of going over it in a little more detail and talking to staff, I think the better option would be to leave our options open by taking it. If it turns out that we're not able to use it without being able to fall within the restrictions of the use of those funds, then at that point we can go to a situation with giving part or all of it to the county. So I kind of abbreviated the staff report a fair amount there, but the recommendation would be to opt to receive the funds directly, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councilor Kohler.
So about how much funds are we talking about?
We calculated it's just $15,000 a year, but I didn't see this part myself, but someone told me it's for 18 years. So the drug companies managed to spread out their pain, so to speak, over several years. But so the total amount, and of course the states get a large chunk. I can't remember the final percentage that was negotiated between the states and the cities, which was a real problem towards the end of last year. But I believe the cities in Oregon ended up with 55% and the state ended up with 45% of billions of dollars.
Just to follow up then, is that something that we would be able to use with our police department?
Yes, at least part of it. Most of it is designed for treatment, but it's also allowed for training for officers with regard to overdoses. So that was kind of the key trigger point for staff, and we felt there could be an opportunity there.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And that was something I was thinking about in terms of police when, if they're trained on the appropriate response, when they encounter someone who is under the influence of an opioid, that's only going to go better for the person who is under the influence and for the officer to have the best outcome that you can possibly hope for under those difficult circumstances. So preparing our officers for whatever we can do under those circumstances, I think it would be a good investment. I don't know how far 15,000 will go, but it's better than Swift Kick, right? Yes? I'm looking at you.
It will
Chief.
not go very far. And it's funny, I was listening to you, and you put a lot of qualifiers on that. The pool of successful persons coming out of that got smaller and smaller and smaller, which is reality. The police department doesn't have any special interest in this $15,000, except for purchasing naloxone or Narcan. Right now, we get that not necessarily granted to us, but donated to us. I don't know when that will end, but I've deferred to other staff as far as how to handle this.
Okay. So is there an opportunity that you see for this 15,000 to enhance any of the programs or training we have at this, for our officers?
We've done everything we can, and we're able to do that within our current budget. There may be something around the corner.
Okay. Counselor Starr?
Could those funds be used to do community education about the dangers of opioids? Just a question.
I am not sure that it's allowed for that. I'd have to check, but it was quite restrictive as I got. The real interest was direct treatment for addictions. But education as a component of that maybe, but I think the education was directed more to the addicted persons rather than others, but I can check into that.
Is prevention considered an approach to treatment?
You know?
I just see it
I
every
know,
day, so.
I didn't see anything specific like that in the exhibit to the settlement, but I can look that over again. Because I think that'd be great use of it, frankly.
We have time to figure it out.
Yeah, at risk of being wrong, my recollection is that the education was part of it. It was a very narrow list, but it was very long, so very specific, but
All right.
many.
But if we take it, then we have time to work with our local service providers, including the county, on determining how we can leverage these funds into opportunities. If we just say, here, county, have it, then we're just deferring to county, which is not a bad thing. They are building resources as fast as they can. Hiring is probably one of the biggest challenges right now for everybody, to get service providers for mental health and addiction. So everything toward the prevention side, I would agree with Councilor Starr, are dollars well invested. Council President Smith, do you know what direction you want to go?
Yep.
All right, let's put a motion on the table.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council direct staff to give notice to directly receive the funds from the National Opioid Settlement.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council direct staff to give notice to directly receive funds from the National Opioid Settlement. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, signify by saying no. No objection, motion passes unanimously. That concludes the administrative action for this evening. Council President Smith, would you
There's one
please?
more.
G? Oh, one more. I can jump in.
Hey, wait a minute.
I'm like 8:30, hey, gotta rock and roll. Oh my goodness, well, we can't forget this one. Yeah, I kind of jumped. This one's pretty cool. The request for community center fee waiver, League of Oregon Cities.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown. This goes to Ms. Davis. Yes? It does.
Thank you. Mayor and council members, the League of Oregon City has scheduled the Keizer Community Center for an elected officials training on January 26, 2023. It's training provided to elected officials and staff on municipal governance. They would wish to use one of our Iris rooms. It would be a full-day training session followed by the Oregon Mayors Association reception. Total rental fee would be $1,040 plus a $750 refundable deposit. A couple of options were laid out in the staff report for you, and the council is the sole authority to grant the fee waivers for use. Staff is recommending it will cost us about $375 in staffing to set up the room, cover the event, and clean up afterwards. Staff recommends that you waive the rental fee but charge to cover the staffing costs. So I can answer any further questions if you need.
All right, thank you very much. And I hope everybody's marked their calendars for this training, by the way. It doesn't get much more convenient than this.
I just did.
Yes, you did. All right. Any questions on the staff report or recommendation? Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. What have we done in the past for this particular group?
They were here pre-pandemic, and we waived the fees, but we did charge for staffing. The staffing was a little less at that time because the event was a little shorter. They didn't include the reception that night. So we waived rental fee, charged, I think it was $275 for staffing.
Thank you very much.
All right, Councilor Herrera.
I think this is, speaking for League of Oregon Cities, this is, of course, we've all taken essential training, and it's really great. I mean, but what they've added on this year to make it better is, the reception afterwards. And I think it's, like I say, it's, last year, it's been a while since we've done this because of the pandemic, but, I mean, I think it's over 500 people attended for the last one we had. So, and I think it's something that we all need. I mean, I learned a lot myself, and I'm looking forward to that one. Actually, I'm looking forward to doing it. But yeah, this is a little beyond the regular class. But so I strongly support that. Surprise.
Okay. Any other questions on the staff report or the request? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Keizer City Council approve a waiver of the rental fee and refundable deposit, but charge $375 for staffing costs for the League of Oregon Cities elected officials training and social event on January 26th of 2023.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the Keizer City Council approve a waiver of the rental fee and refundable deposit, but charge $375 for staffing costs for the League of Oregon Cities elected officials training and social event on January 26th, 2023. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying no. Hearing no objection, motion passes unanimously. Now we've finished the administrative action, and we'll go on to the consent calendar. And Council President Smith, would you please read the items on tonight's consent calendar?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. There are 3 items on the consent calendar. Item 1 is item A, resolution approving the city engineer's report declaring the city's intent to form Orchard Street Partition Street Lighting Local Improvement District, providing notice and setting hearing. Item B is approval of the June 13th, 2022 work session minutes. Item C is approval of the June 21st, 2022 regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls?
Yes, please.
Councilor Reed.
I'd like to poll item C, please.
Item C is pulled. Any others? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Keizer City Council adopt the consent calendar items A and B.
Second.
Consent calendar items A and B have been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Motion passes unanimously. Councilor Reed on 9C.
Yes.
Okay, and you are pulling it because?
Because I was not there and I did not have a chance to look at it.
Okay, so you are electing to abstain?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the Keizer City Council adopt consent calendar item C.
Second.
Consent calendar item C, 9C has been moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed signify by saying no. Abstentions?
Yes.
Motion passes with 6 aye and 1 abstention. That is Councilor Reed. Other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. And the first item that is under other business is the City of Keizer Emergency Management Update. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I know this is something that's important to all of you, and we've just been through a major emergency, a once-in-a-century pandemic. And so that's a great reminder that we need to be prepared to handle anything that comes our way. And there's, we operate under the National Incident Management System. We've had conversations with the department heads together and spent a meeting talking about this as a kickoff, as a beginning to it. Our staff, I think all but one of our employees have training. I think that's probably at your leadership that they got trained up. But we've had the primary discussion kickoff is that it's part of everybody's responsibility to be incident command ready and to understand the incident command system. And so we recognize that's part of everybody's responsibility. And one of the only ways you get familiar about doing that is by doing either real experience, which is not necessarily a great learning environment, or tabletop exercises. And so we've got to schedule and plan out exercises in the incident command structure that we can sharpen our own saw and so that we're more prepared. We've looked at the facility, we've talked about the facility. Currently, we have a location in the building for our operations center, and then there's another option for our operations center. I think we need to flesh that out right now, or flesh that out soon, whether the current one makes sense or whether it makes sense to relocate it. We have a draft of the emergency plan that's been partially marked up thanks to Marion County Emergency Management, and they've got probably at least a third of the way through it. And I did have had conversations with them, and they feel like that's about all they can do in the time that they've spent on it to date. But I think it's something that we can easily pick up and finish. Right now, you have a position open in the Public Works Department, and it's to address the front counter and some permits. And it was assigned some emergency management responsibility. And what I see going forward, and again, we'll need to continue having conversations with the department heads to figure out how to make this work best, is that position really still can be an administrative support. As I look at the structure, the needs of each department, it is difficult to justify having a full-time emergency manager. Now, an emergency manager could make the job full-time. I don't have any doubt about that. But I think there may be some other solutions to being able to keep us ready and aware and trained without having to allocate a full FTE to that role. But I do think that being able to offer some administrative support to emergency management, we can make that work with wherever we decide that the lead would be. Right now, the plan, the lead has it in Public Works. Chief Teague was part of making that plan before he left Keizer the first time, and now he's back in a different role from the time when he wrote that plan. But again, it's a role that everybody has to be a participant in, and so whether it's the chief or our Public Works Director, planning, finance, we all have a piece to play. And I'm thinking that the leadership from that will come from that group. And I think we can design that position such that that position can help us make the prompts so that we're aware, while also providing the primary service that's in need right now, which is Public Works. So I know it's important to you, and so I did want to give an update without letting you know that we've solved the issue. We've scraped away the first few layers of it, and it will continue to do that as a team. So that's where we are with it.
Thank you very much. Questions? Council President Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I know you and I were discussing this at breakfast because I was fascinated with the whole thing. Did you find out whether or not we ever actually have activated it over the last several years? Or?
I don't think we did.
Okay, so it was never activated during COVID or the ice storms or anything, correct?
No, but we did receive some funding under, to my knowledge, it wasn't, but we did receive money through Marion County Emergency Management. And so it's something important to understand too, is that the state only works through county emergency management. And so anything the city does comes underneath Marion County Emergency Management. So for one, we have to be trained up and participating with Marion County, and then also then be able to take care of our own needs or supplement what they're doing in each of our communities.
So I've got one follow-up question. A lot of cities have fire protection that is part a city department. The city of Keizer has 2 fire districts that cover portions of our city. So in next steps, after we've worked on our city plan, is the next phase also going to include conversations with the 2 fire districts, Keizer Fire District and Marion County Fire District, or is that going to be concurrent?
I think I've already opened the door with Keizer Fire District and talked to them about us needing them to be a part of whatever we're doing. Now, if it's a county-wide emergency, then they likely would have somebody there supporting Marion County Emergency Management. So it may be one of the other command staff in the fire department that would be helping us in our emergency operations center. So, but I've talked about that with Keizer Fire Department, and when we get to the point of doing our regular planning meetings and tabletop exercise and stuff, those would be the agencies that would be invited to participate in it with us at whoever they see appropriate, inviting to that, to our organization, our command structure.
Okay, thank you. And for those who are watching and going, 2 fire districts? Yes. Park Meadow North is covered by Marion County Fire District, which is a separate taxing district from Marion County itself. Just want folks to know, and I'm kind of connected with that since my husband worked there for 30 years. All right, thank you very much, and thank you for that update. You're right, this has been an important goal for the City Council. And the last piece I'm going to add is on public information as part of the job description and duties, how that's going to be done in terms of outreach, communications, social media, et cetera. Council President Smith and I have spent, and all of us have spent a lot of time doing that over the last 2 years of a series of unfortunate events, COVID only being one of them, and keeping that communications in multiple platforms strong is something that I would encourage this to be part of the conversation with the entire staff team. Because I love you all, but I don't want to spend that much time on Facebook ever again. All right. Are there other staff updates this evening? Mr. Brown?
Actually, Chief Teague was going to address a complaint.
Okay.
So.
Actually, I was bouncing off of, I think, Councilor Starr's email regarding fireworks, right?
Yeah, that was a cranky moment this morning. I apologize.
Oh, well, you were the only one that lacked sleep. My understanding, it was not just in Keizer, but all over.
It was all over.
I don't know if it was pent up from people not get all their fireworks they didn't shoot off last year or what, but it was a noisy night everywhere. And then City Manager Brown responded to your email suggesting that we would discuss this at greater length on the 18th. Within the PD, this is a largely unsolvable problem. It's much bigger than Keizer. There's an inertia that runs over Keizer with regard to fireworks that we're not going to solve this problem here in Keizer. nevertheless, it may be worth developing a work group to address what we can do and perhaps provide some education. I'm talking about having members of the work group ride with officers over those days surrounding July 4th, so you can see what it is. It isn't a lack of police officers doing anything, it's a lack of ability to do anything. And maybe we can arrive at something that we frankly, right now, aren't thinking of. We're open to be very transparent about the whole thing.
No, I appreciate that. I think my issue was that we, just as a society in general, you just have to drive down the street to observe people thinking that the laws don't apply to them anymore. I don't know what happened to society. Just if it's against the law, you just don't do it. And what I witnessed last night, I am sad that our community has come down to that. And I don't know if I don't know what the answer is, but we have somehow got to figure out a way to let people know that they are not above the law and that the laws do apply to everybody. I was embarrassed to be a Keizer citizen last night.
The police department is well aware that up until this year, I've been making frequent use of the non-emergency number because there were some people in the Palmacia area that were heavy users of illegal fireworks to the point that, NICE doesn't stop at midnight. NICE for me was stopping at 11, but they weren't stopping at all. Apparently the chief offender in my neighborhood moved because it was the quietest year I've had in about 4 or 5. Apparently they may have moved to your neighborhood, and I'm very sorry to hear that because it was horrific. Yeah, but you're right. Chief, when we discussed this last year and the year before, you had recommendations for possible legislative fixes that would make it easier for police to be able to deal with situations on the ground. And would you help us with bringing that recommendation back around, or some language that would make it easier and make it more enforceable? You were talking about the class of the offense and also the ability to cite everybody, not to say, I have to prove the person holding the match.
Yeah, I don't recall the details of that right now, but we come back the 18th to talk about it. I can talk about it at greater length.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I do remember that, and it was something that we weren't able to pursue at that time.
Anecdotally, so we responded to 20 calls for service around fireworks over this past few days. And anecdotally, the guys told me that there are 2 classes of people that light off fireworks. There are the people that are compliant and will stop and don't run. And they're the people who see the cops and they run. And they're the ones who are non-compliant. And they're the ones we can't catch. I'm hesitant to arrest the people who are compliant and don't run and let the other ones go and keep shooting off fireworks. I mean, it's a confounding problem.
Yeah, send a dog.
Well, and, unfortunately, the state of Oregon is complicit in this, in that they haven't stopped the flow of the big stuff, into Oregon from Washington, where I guess you can, light them if you got them. I don't know how Washington operates, and I've been in Oregon so long, I don't remember California either. Because I was a kid, and probably loud, explosive things when I was a kid was exciting and fun. But thank you for the follow-up on that. Was there other staff updates? Mr. Wood, Ms. Davis, Mr. Lawyer, shade sales? Oh, and by the way, people are loving the splash fountain.
I don't have any new information on the shade sales from them. What was that, what Adam put out over the weekend? The schedule now is columns go up on the 12th.
Okay.
Hopefully it can be open on the 15th. Keep my fingers crossed.
It's almost here.
It's almost here.
Yeah, fantastic. And we'll have those new shelters up before Keizer Fest.
Hopefully the shelters will be up before the columns get here.
Ooh.
That's what we're hoping. I'm not promising that, but I'm hoping they'll be done and out of the way when we open the big door.
All right, fantastic. Thank you. Mr. Witham. anything? Mr. Johnson?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following up on Councilor Starr's question on the opiate funds, and Mr. Brown was correct, I was incorrect. There is a provision for prevention programs. I was just looking through I think it's a 12-page exhibit. And it's a little limited, but it is providing for prevention programs, so we'll be looking at that as an option.
Fantastic. All right, thank you very
you.
much. Council member reports. Oh, yes, Councilor Starr?
Were we going to take up the library funding?
Oh, thank you. Before we go to leave other business and so forth, yes, Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So, because I spent so much time and effort on the library, I've had a little bit of frustration with the movement of the target. We go from one to the other and to another one, and then this isn't there and that isn't there. Because the library is an important thing for our community, I would like to discuss using ARPA funds, $60,000 of it, to give the funding to continue to have a community library and giving a bonus to making it 75 of $15,000 for a grant writer so that they can learn to be self-sustaining and not dependent upon us for all their funding. As a 501c3, they have an opportunity to do that, and they haven't done that for a while. And I think it's maybe we could encourage them to do that. And maybe even if we had some oversight from a member of the council to review what they're doing, how they're doing it, so that the people in Keizer can continue to have a library.
Thank you very much. So oversight as a liaison type of
Yes.
connection. So what we would need is, if we want to do that we could by consensus direct staff to come back with a recommendation on this concept, or we can do a formal motion. Are there further ideas on
And
this?
I'd like to discuss this a little bit, and if we discuss it enough, I'm willing to make a formal motion.
Okay. Mr. Johnson?
If council intends to move forward tonight, you would need a motion to suspend the rules, and it needs to be deemed urgent. So I wasn't sure what your timing was.
Right, and this would be so we need a motion to suspend the rules, take up the matter regarding direction to staff for funding for the Keizer Community Library for operations and a grant writer. Actually, yeah, I'll leave it at that. So.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, Mr. Johnson, so if we are just directing staff, do we need to make suspend the rules and all that, or can we just direct staff?
No, well, I think one of the choices the mayor was just indicating is by consensus, you can direct us to bring it back on an agenda.
And then we don't have to suspend the rules?
Yeah, no, you don't need to suspend the rules.
Okay.
If you're taking final action, direct us to take final action on something,
okay,
then you would need to suspend the rules. If you just want to put it on the agenda, you can just simply do that by consensus if there's no objection.
To bring this to the July 18th agenda with a full staff report and options. Councilor Kohler,
I'm okay with that.
you good with that?
But I guess I would like to get people's opinion of that, how they feel about that.
Councilor Starr?
I think that pushing it any further out past July is a concern, just from a 501c3 perspective and a grant pipeline. You don't want to lose too much time in applying for, developing a grant plan and applying for grants and getting things in the pipeline, because some funders have literally an 18-month window from the time you apply to when the grant is awarded. So pushing it out too much farther past July 18th, I think defeats the purpose of funding so my understanding is they have a year of funding in the bank, takes us to the end of the year, funding them for another year, but you really want to get that grant writing started as soon as possible, so you have that full 18-month timeline to get grants in the pipeline. So I wouldn't want to push it any farther out.
Okay. Council President Smith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just would like them to be here and have a say in it, just because I feel like we're kind of running over the top of them. We're just like, here's 60 grand and here's what you're going to do. So if we can get it back by the 18th, that's great, but I definitely would want their opinions and their willingness to accept the funding before we voted for that. So,
Right.
Thank you.
And this is a concern I've had as we've had further discussions on next steps for the Keizer Community Library. A lot of effort has been put into looking at this model. What does it look like to become a public library? What does it look like to work with CCRLS? A lot of work's gone into that, which with a limited use or limited capacity of a volunteer board, that this will buy, not only buy time, but will also equip them as a Keizer Community Library to continue the level of service we currently have. And they are an important part of our community. I fully support making sure that that facility, the services remain available to our community. We just had the launch with the summer reading program, and I believe all the reptiles were accounted for.
They're all in my backyard now.
But all joking aside, I am very much interested in staff coming back with this opportunity to assist the Keizer Community Library in a meaningful way. Other comments? I'm going to go to Councilor Reed, if I may.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, again, I am fully in support of the library, and along with Councilor Smith, we need to have them in this conversation. This is a very different direction than they were wanting to go, and as you say, a lot of effort and thought and blood, sweat, and tears have been going into this direction. This is seems to me a change of direction, and we need to see if that is what they want. And I also know that the Keizer Heritage Foundation, of which the library is, Keizer Community Library is a part, does have a grant writer, I can't remember the word, but available to all of the members of the organization.
Yeah.
And so they can also tap into that sort of communal resource as well. They're in a good place to be able to do that from my understanding, but absolutely, they are the experts in this. We can but provide the resources, and so we need to help them in any way we can.
And as I understand, with the contracted grant writer, there is a cost involved, so this would allow for them to take further opportunity with the grant writer.
And she's very good.
Yes, she is. She gets the grants.
She absolutely does, yes.
Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In suggesting that we do this, I'm not at all suggesting or throwing anybody under the bus. The library board has worked hard on some things. If the CCRLS is not something that we can obtain in the near future at all, then I think that we need to retain what we have and do our best to move forward. And if we find that membership in the CCRLS is something that we can address in the future, well, fine, let's address it. And maybe we can vote on it then. But until then, I think we're spitting in the wind.
All right, so by consensus, direct staff to come back with recommendation options for $60,000 in operating and an additional up to $15,000 that they can use for grant writing, and to consult with the Keizer Community Library in this in development of this recommendation. Is that what I'm hearing from council?
Yes.
Okay, any questions? Mr. Brown, Mr. Wood? All right. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, and thanks for reminding me to stop skipping to the end.
Do you have somewhere to go?
After this long day, yeah. No, not really. Anyway, council member reports. Councilor Duran, I'll start with you tonight.
I have nothing.
All right, Councilor Starr.
I have nothing.
Council President Smith.
I have nothing tonight.
Councilor Kohler.
What a beautiful week it was. I got to go to the Salem Hospital ribbon cutting event, which was really pretty exciting. We added 150 new beds, which will open up on the 15th at the tune of $234 million. Figure out how much per bed that costs, Tim. We can work on that. We'll talk about that later. But that's a big chunk of change. But the building is absolutely beautiful. It is wow. As some of you know, I do spend a little bit of time at the hospital, and it's needed. It's full most of the time. And so this is something that's pretty exciting. Got to meet some great people, and got to stand in and say Keizer is, yay, part of that.
All right. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you being able to be there, and also your service as a volunteer chaplain. It's much appreciated. Thank you very much. We also had a community dinner.
Well, there were a few people there.
Yeah, a few hundred, yeah. It was good. So.
It was good, and it was fun. And the next community dinner, we get to serve.
We do.
I'll probably be flipping burgers, but I may hire somebody to flip burgers for me so I can be with you guys to serve.
But you can volunteer somebody. Thank you very much. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of things. First of all, the Keizer Heritage Foundation will be having their volunteer appreciation event on July 12th at the Civic Center. And that is just a really excellent showcase of appreciation for all of the volunteers who spend so much time and effort in all four of the organizations that are under the Keizer Heritage Foundation umbrella. So that is, again, the Keizer Homegrown Theater, the Community Library, the Keizer Art Association, and the museum. And we haven't had a volunteer appreciation event for some time because of COVID. And so this is a really exciting event. And we planned it on the one day that it's guaranteed not to rain. Apparently there has been no traceable rain on July 12th for a very long time. So fingers crossed. The other thing is the Keizer Homegrown Theater is having a happy birthday Keizer Homegrown Theater to celebrate their 10th anniversary.
Woo!
And that is going to be kind of a compilation of the best of the Shakespeare in the parks and a few other events or a few other treats involved with that. And that'll be July 14th, 15th, and 16th, 23rd, 2nd, and 23rd. And you can see their website for further information. So that is exciting. That's all I have.
Fantastic. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a few meetings last week with the executive with Marion County Public Safety Commission, and also we had our first Family Neighborhood Council Kennedy meeting, and it was quite festive. In fact, we have some folks here right now, our president and Tammy, and we have a good group we'll put together. We have some funds from CBEL, thanks to what we're part of here, and we are putting things together. We're in the early stages of organizing, but we're trying to put together a list of what exactly we want, because we want to be able to bring in different events, whether it's related to education or fun stuff for the kids. And we're looking very forward to it. Also, under the same umbrella with CBEL, they have the Hallman Northgate, and we're always looking for volunteers over there every Friday at Northgate Park, and their themes are similar. They do safety stuff, dental things for community, all kinds of good stuff, outdoor activities, playing, reading, whatever. And so we need volunteers on Fridays. So if anybody interested in that, give me a call. I would be happy to help you, or Eduardo Angulo will also be happy to help. As you know, I went down to the National NALEO conference, which the theme was mental health, and it was really enlightening in so many areas, although the theme was that I learned a lot about fentanyl. I didn't know anything about fentanyl. and also Narcan. I didn't know anything about that. It's amazing. And fentanyl, folks that don't know this, if you overdose on, heroin or something, you get sick, go to the hospital, but if you overdose on fentanyl, you die. And it's 100 times more powerful than morphine and 50 times more powerful than, just a little speck more than powerful, 50 times more than heroin. And also I attended an ethics class for government and learned a lot. And we were lucky to have the governor and the mayor and everybody, even the VP, Kamala Harris spoke to us on the last evening. One of the things that I did pick up is a project for 2023, which I will be doing with Commissioner Archuleta from New Mexico and David Luna from Arizona. We come up with some kind of great ideas. We'll tell you later as I develop this, or we develop this. And the networking's incredible. I mean, it's I know that, like I tell people, like, it's burden on the city for the funds, but the revenue, the payback is incredible. I mean, as you know, with Cal Club and all the other things, LAC. But anyway, that was really enlightening. And also, I'm very sad to tell you about Mary Lynn Morgan passed away, John Morgan's wife. She had been struggling. In fact, it was a year ago that she was, put her in the home there, and John said she was the youngest person that. It was very, Marilyn and John are dear friends, and it's been really hard for John, who we all know and love, of course. But anyway, her service is going to be on July 11th at 11 o'clock at St. Paul Episcopal Church. Sorry about that, I'm getting choked up. And that's the one here in Liberty, here on 1444 Liberty. It's in Salem, it's not St. Paul. It's the name of it, St. Paul. But it'd be nice to go. I'm going to be out of town, believe it or not, during that, and I hate it. But this Mary Lynn was a wonderful person, if you guys knew her, and it was very tragic what happened there. Also, I wanted to mention a couple things. All this stuff, the gun violence and all that, everybody in a bad mood and all that, it's really been, we discussed that at the national conference and how it's affecting mental health and how it's affecting, and one of the things that I think about, because of the loss of my two younger brothers of heart attacks, is self-care. And those of us, like all of us that are 100 miles an hour, we can't help and do our work if we don't take care of ourselves. And I'm guilty of that because of my medical situations. But that's something I'm going to bear more as a 70-year-old man. And I hope you guys do too. Think about yourself, caring for yourself. And that's one of the biggest things I brought back. But I'm pretty excited about our project for 2023, and Keizer will also be part of it, hopefully. I will present that to the council someday. And so that's it. I think I filled up enough for all the no comments. Sorry about that. I'm sorry to hog the time. Thank you very much.
No, thank you for reporting back. We wanted to hear about Naleo and
That's awesome.
the work there. So thank you very much. And glad you got a chance to go to an in-person conference, which is something I will be enjoying in August with the Oregon Mayors Association. Getting back together in person has been so valuable. Just a couple of things to add. There's been a number of meetings for the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance. The proposals are 4 proposals for the Youth Homeless Development Program that were submitted to HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, to allocate $3.4 million. So those proposals are now under HUD review, and hopefully all 4 projects. 3 of them, one is transitional housing through community action. One is coordinated entry through community action. One is supportive services only, which is actually 2 of them, one provided by community action, one provided by Church at the Park. Very comprehensive work done by the service providers in providing the proposals, working on scoping with staff, and then being approved by the Homeless Alliance Board and the Youth Advisory Board. So looking forward to getting those dollars here and putting them to work. I had the privilege of being on a Women's Caucus panel of mayors, talking with women leaders from around the state on serving as a mayor in Oregon, particularly women who are looking at running for the mayor's position, who are currently serving in other capacities in their city. So it was a very powerful and just a really positive conversation with future women and current women leaders. Just a couple other things. I want to share a letter that we received, and I'll be giving this to Mr. Brown from the American Legion. It ended up in my box, and it really should have ended up in Mr. Brown's box, because it is addressed to Mr. Adam Brown. Thank you for your participation in Boys State Girls Skate 2022 at Western Oregon State University. Your presentation was greatly appreciated and was well received by the delegates. The time you spent with our citizens in front of the class and over lunch will be remembered by them for years to come. Hopefully your schedule for June and July of 2023 will allow you to address next year's convention. Sincerely, Ian Gerstel, Oregon Boys State Committee Chair. So well done, and thank you. I want to announce that people who are interested in applying to be a volunteer for city committees, we'll be looking at positions that will be open for appointment or reappointment, 2 on the Public Arts Commission, and of course our committee youth liaisons, always recruiting youth to get involved. We're looking for youth liaisons to the Parks Board and Traffic Safety Bike Ped. And then the 2 positions on the Public Arts Commission. If you're interested, please go to the website, keizer.org. And if you have questions, please contact Debbie Lockhart, lockhartd@keizer.org. Get your application in and get involved with our city committees. I have one last thing before we go to agenda input, and that is, 2 things. Coming up is the Marion County Fair this coming weekend, so celebrate our wonderful county. And again, it was in person last year and had record-breaking attendance because people were so happy to be back at a fair. So that was fantastic. I had a wonderful time. The Council of Governments Legislative Committee will be meeting tomorrow morning. Not tomorrow morning, so next week. Next week on the 13th at 7 a.m. Don't ask me why. These are some people who like mornings. I like my coffee. But we've been working very hard on our legislative agenda for our 3-county region and working very closely to build collaboration between the councils of government statewide and also with special districts, League of Oregon Cities, and Association of Oregon Counties. One last special thing is a very happy birthday to 2 of our very special staff members, Tracy Davis and Shannon Johnson. Will be celebrating birthdays next week. And we just want to wish you a very happy birthday to both of you. We do have cards, but also our deep appreciation and thanks to both of you for your years of incredible service, leadership, and just putting up with us. So happy birthday, Tracy. Happy birthday, Shannon. Party. Yeah, party. But we'll have to provide them the cookies because Tracy's always doing that for us. Wrap up tonight, agenda input. Our work session next week for July 11th is canceled. That has been given to the Community Diversity Engagement Committee. On July 18th at 7 p.m., we will meet in regular session. And our 2 meetings, then August 1st, again, 7 p.m. in regular session. And we have a work session August 8th, 6 p.m. And we have, Mr. Brown, did we talk about a topic for August? I think we had talked a little bit about emergency management, but that's not ready for prime time.
I feel like there was something else we talked about. I can look at my notes.
Yeah, we'll have to come back. Keep it on your calendar. If we decide not to do one, it's easier to take it off the calendar and then put it back on. So at this point, we will leave it on the calendar. All right, is there anything else for the good of the order? Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Witham, I had a citizen ask me earlier today, all the construction that's down at the end of Lock Haven, is that for the new library?
No, it's not. So the construction on the end, they actually have their public improvement permits. That's a project. The property owner received a conditional use approval to do some mini storage there and RV and boat storage. We haven't seen any actual building permits for any of the structures yet, so they're just doing infrastructure stuff at this point.
Thank you very much. When they asked me that, I just
Inquire.
You guys move fast.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's right.
That would be amazing.
Inquiring minds want to know. All right, thank you all very much for your work. Then the time is 9:14. We are adjourned.